Ashlynn, today's guest. I always want to say your last name fancier.
It's not fancy.
I think it's fancy. Is it French?
It's Italian.
You're like, here we go. You're like, no.
It's Marquise.
Marquise. I always want to be like Marquise. Like
if it
Marquise.
Yeah, I think, at some point it was Marchese, but people stopped saying that, or at least we did.
Some people choose work that keeps them at a distance from life's hardest moments. Ashlynn chose to walk straight into them. At 32, she has already built a career centered around older adults navigating chronic illness, poverty, mental health challenges, and the deeply human realities of death, dying, grief, and loss. From hospice to home health, to programs designed to help seniors remain in their homes rather than move into a nursing facility, her work is rooted in dignity. She earned her bachelor's in social work from Mercyhurst University, minoring in gerontology and French, graduating in 2015. Then, in 2016, went on to complete her Master's of Social Work program through the University of Pittsburgh, also specializing in gerontology, the study of aging. And after 3,000 supervised hours, she recently passed her licensed clinical social work exam. But what makes this conversation even more layered is the balance. If you're watching the video version, behind her is a photograph of the flowers she grew herself for her wedding. And that feels symbolic, because whether she's tending to people in their most vulnerable seasons or tending to a garden with her dad, Ashlynn understands that care takes time. It takes intention, and sometimes it requires getting outside. When she is not using her magic social work wand to help others, she enjoys writing poetry, spending time with her 2 cats and husband in their home, and working in her dad's vegetable garden. Today's conversation is about service, sustainability, and making outside a priority, even when your work is emotionally heavy. Marquise, that's how I'm going to say it.
You can say it however you
You're
want.
like, however you want. She grew her own flowers for her wedding.
I did.
Because,
Why not?
why not? And was just even keel about it.
No, that was actually the most stressful part.
I'm sure.
Everything else, I didn't care. It was fine. But the week before my wedding, my dad and I were very stressed out.
I'm sure.
I had 5 backup plans, but luckily I didn't need any of them.
That's why you have backup plans. Because then hopefully you don't need them. I almost feel like it's a thing that you put out into the universe. Well, welcome. Thank you. This has been a long time coming. We were talking about this last year. Sorry, I actually have a... I'm sorry. You said you were going to make jokes, so I thought, let's just get it out of the way.
My jokes usually aren't that funny either.
Most people are really surprised when I have sound effects.
I kind of like the sound effects.
It's fun, right? There's some more that I can use too at some point. For the sports podcast, the guys do a couple different segments, and one is it used to be called Stump Derek. So Brendan would ask him a question, and he knows these crazy facts especially about Steelers football. He'll know what the score was of a game in like 1979 and the temperature and who ran into the end zone for 45 yards. It's just insane to me. Well, we switched it this year to Stump Brendan. And when they get it right, I give them...
Yeah, I feel like you don't want sound effects when you're talking about death and dying, though.
No.
The drum is good, though.
That was just... We got that out of the way. So, yeah, we are having a pretty serious conversation today. But I've said this to you before. I have so much respect for you, and I'm really honored that you're here because what you do is... It's such an important job. You're taking care of people at the end of their life. And I think for most of us, we don't really think about it probably until it's upon us. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable, right?
It is.
And we don't think about it because I don't want to think about it. However, whenever you're faced with death, this is what you do. You help people through this. So for the people who don't know you, like I do, tell them who you are.
My name is Ashlynn Marquise. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am currently working with a hospice company where I drive all around and I see patients in their homes and nursing facilities, different care settings, help them through very difficult parts of their life. I'm with people as they pass, but my background is in social work, and I've worked with older adults in different settings throughout the years, and I just like to try to help people if I can.
And you always knew you wanted to work with older adults. That was, they're talking about the moment that you knew that this was the work that you wanted to get into and why.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was very involved with different volunteer opportunities. And when I was choosing which college I was going to, my grandfather had very significant dementia, where my grandmother was no longer able to care for him at home, and he ended up in a nursing facility. And so I kind of got to see that process for my grandparents, and then also my mom, kind of like what that looked like with her becoming a caregiver for a very long time, and watched that process of my grandfather dying on hospice. And that was the first interaction I'd ever had with a social worker. And I have this very distinct memory of this woman. I couldn't tell you her name, but I remember her standing in the room with all of us holding a clipboard, which is something I do every day. So when I think about that, it's funny because I'm that person now. And it kind of intrigued me as to what her job was. So when I decided to go to school up in Erie at Mercyhurst, I met with the department head of the social work department and kind of told her my story. She asked, why are you here? What are you interested in? Told her that story, and she told me that she was teaching a class for a semester called Grief and Loss. And so I took the class, which kind of sparked my interest in that. And I spent most of my academic career focusing on caregiver burnout, dementia, death and dying, things like that. So I just kind of knew that's where I wanted to be.
Gerontology,
the study of aging,
isn't something that people usually just like fall into accidentally. And this is going again into you very early on knowing. And I say early on because I don't think a lot of people at that age know absolutely what they want to do with their life, and they're fully dedicated to it. I feel like you knew, which is really special. It's a calling. What drew you specifically to that end of life work? So
there's a phrase in social work as well as other fields that says, you're meeting the person where they're at. And for me, I did not want to work with children. I knew that. I don't know if I just babysat too often as a teenager, but I think I saw room for error in a way, that my interactions with them could still potentially alter them. And I wasn't interested in that. So I thought, older adults is like they truly are who they are. They're at this stage of their life, and just helping them, meeting them where they're at in that process and helping support them through it. And again, it's something that most of us, if we get that lucky to grow old, we will, the two absolutes in this life, if we are born, we will die.
Yeah.
So.
And it's scary, I think, thinking about it, especially for those of us who aren't around it as much as you are, exposed to it. You've worked everywhere from hospice, home health programs, also programs designed to keep people out of nursing homes. So those settings, what have they taught you about that dignity and independence?
I think when people aren't used to interacting with older adults, an older adult can be considered, some people consider it 55 and older, usually it's 65 and older. If you don't have experience with that population, sometimes people think that old people are scary or they're gross or they're smelly, and they just don't give them that time. And a lot of these people have lived very hard lives. A lot of them have done amazing things that you wouldn't know just by looking at them, even if they ended up being, kind of all alone at the end of their life. So just kind of learning their stories and knowing that, they do have worth, and they are worthy of care and respect and, just safety, and however we can help them.
It actually made me think of, and this is going to take us really into a sad place for just a second. I think one of the last survivors of the Holocaust passed away recently. Now, and I don't want to say that as a fact. Clickbait is a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I saw it, and I was looking at the article, and imagine someone who, these are the people that are still alive, the people that lived through that. My grandmother would be 100 this year if she was still alive. She would have turned 100 in January. Was she 96 when she died? Yeah, she died in 23. To think about this for a second. She died in she died in 22. And there's a woman that I've met with. She went to the very first Butler County Symphony Orchestra concerts.
Wow.
99 years old.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she's turning 100 in May. She has the same birthday as my dad. And hearing these stories that she's telling, she's really funny, actually. She's a little firecracker. But it's so fascinating to me to think about someone that was born in 1926. 1926.
I've been lucky to meet very many people over the age of 100, and it's surprising.
So you've been with people who are over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm. I just had a lady who was well over 100.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And the stories, that she was very sharp.
That's the thing. They remember. There's things that they remember. I Shirley remembered. She remembered the time of year. She could almost feel like the air. She knew it was September. She remembered like the coat she was wearing. There was just so many details, and I thought, wow, that's so fascinating. And to think back, and even now when I think back to college, I'm like, wow, that was like yesterday. Yeah. Can you imagine being in your hundreds and being? You can't really feel like it's yesterday, but still, that's a lot of life lived.
I have this story of when I was in college, I did some volunteer work I went to Mercyhurst. So it was the Sisters of Mercy, were religious sisters that founded the college. Mm-hmm. And they lived in the Mother House right up the way. So I'd walk up there and spend some time with some of the older ones that were more, it wasn't a true nursing home, but more in the assisted part. And there was this one sister, she was, I think, 102, hunched over. You could barely see her face, just of the way her body was. And I feel like I never interacted with her because I just assumed that she couldn't talk or, couldn't hear different things. And we were doing a book group, and she read a poem by Mary Oliver and just stunned me.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, because we asked the ladies to bring up something they wanted to read, and then out of nowhere she just had this Mary Oliver poem, and I felt horrible because I assumed, because of her physical condition. So like that was a lesson that stayed with me. Wow. To this day.
That's a good lesson. Mm-hmm. So what do you think most people misunderstand about aging in America right now specifically?
I think that a lot of people think that older adults can't speak for themselves, or they don't have the autonomy to make choices. And, it's that fine line of, are they making a safe choice? Do they have an assigned decision maker if they aren't making safe choices? Mm-hmm. But also just ways to include them and still being able to choose things that they do have control over. Sometimes they can't live in their homes. They might not be able to do or eat some of the things that they used to eat, but just, there are things that day-to-day life that they still can do. So just trying to give them that power of choice on a day-to-day basis. And just because someone is old doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. And even people that have dementia, sometimes there are moments of lucidity that just trying to just not acting like that they don't exist anymore, just still engaging with them. And even if they think it's, whatever year in a different planet, sometimes just sitting with them and just going with it, just going with whatever story they're telling, and that's still treating them with respect and giving them that time and that interaction that they deserve, and that every human craves, that to be with other people.
Well, you just said too, deserves, and you've used the word dignity a lot, because that's really what it comes down to, is they deserve the respect and the dignity. They're still humans, and
absolutely
none of us know what that feels like, what that must feel like to be in your mind, and in one moment go back to a time. And maybe that's just what it is. Maybe it's just they don't explain to you that they're reminiscing. They're just there.
Yeah.
And obviously death and dying are central to your work. Mm-hmm. And they're topics that many people avoid. Why do you think that we are so uncomfortable about talking to them? It's inevitable for all of us.
I think that Americans don't do a good job of introducing people to death. you know, there's like always that story of like, oh, the dog ran away to the farm, instead of like using it as an example of like a child losing a pet, where that's a great introduction to death and dying at an early age. I get this question a lot from patients and their families about grandchildren.
Yes.
Should the children be at the funeral home? And obviously it's always up to the parents. In other cultures or different time periods in America, the word, you know, where a funeral parlor comes from is people used to have visitations of their deceased loved ones in their living rooms.
That's right.
Yeah. So death used to be in the home. And so I think, you know, Americans have gotten away from it, and it's turned into some clinical thing where other people deal with it. And so one of the reasons why I love hospice so much is oftentimes we are doing that hospice care, the end of life care, in someone's house. And the family members actually are the primary provider of the care. They're the ones doing the care with the patient. We're just a support for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a beautiful way to kind of like get back to it. But I think death scares people because they don't want to think about their own mortality. I think that movies and media and all that stuff portray it differently than it really is.
Yeah.
Like lots of things.
And this is probably going off topic again. This is how my brain works, but I've read a lot, and I'm sure you have too, about people who have had, you know, death experiences and come back. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever had someone have an experience like that?
I just heard one today that I wasn't aware of for a patient. Their family member shared something with me that they essentially had that, where there was like the experience of, you know, being over top of their body when something was happening. And I've read about that a lot. I think there's so much in the brain that we don't understand. Oftentimes when people are in the active stage of dying, you know, we always say like hearing is the last thing to go, but I don't know that we actually know that to be true. So we just, you know, say it. And I think there's so many things that are happening, electrical things that are happening in the brain that we don't understand. So yeah, who knows what's going on up there when people are passing. I mean, we have people that, you know, the 100-some-year-old people.
Yes.
Hallucinating for their parents that have been gone for a very long time, and they're calling out for them. So are they in the room with them? Are they having memories of them? Are they seeing them? What's happening? We don't know.
Yeah, that's I hear that often too, where they start, oh, so-and-so's here, or there's dad. And to everyone in the room, I guess that's maybe an indicator that they're close.
Yeah.
If they're starting to have.
Yeah. And that's something we do, you know, we'll tell people that if they are asking for family members or seeing people, that typically does indicate that they're getting closer, but it doesn't, I mean, again, everybody's different. I
was watching that show on Apple, Shrinking. Have you seen that show?
I've seen, I think, the first season.
Okay. So third season just started. And Harrison Ford's character, it has been recently diagnosed with.
He has Parkinson's.
But he had a doctor's appointment, and in his appointment, Michael J. Fox actually makes a cameo. But here, he's talking to him. He's having a conversation with him, and he gets back to his house, and he's actually getting married. You know, he's an older man, but him and this woman that he's been dating. That used to be
one of his doctors.
That used to be his doctor, yep. They get married. Spoiler alert. Sorry, anybody, but spoiler alert. I just did that. Usually when I give spoiler alerts, it's like Game of Thrones. I was like, well, if you don't know by now, then
I don't know that anybody's going to be that surprised.
But he sees him and he's like, oh, how'd you end up at my house? He's eating cake. He's like, oh, I love cake. Anytime there's cake, I show up. And she walks in. She's like, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, I'm talking to, and I forget what his name is. He's hallucinating.
Well, so that's actually what happened to my grandfather.
Okay.
So
that's why I wanted to. So
my grandfather had a diagnosis of Parkinson's, but he had hallucinations, very, very active. And there was brief moments like before he got really bad where he would kind of joke about it. My grandma would not be happy with something he was doing, and he'd kind of make a joke about it. Like he knew he didn't know. But he would often see a little girl made out of straw, he would say, climbing around.
Wow.
But some of my cousins were very blonde as children. Oh. So we were like wondering, or even my mom and her sister, they were like later haired children. So we wondered if he was just imagining or remembering the kids running around the house, but we never could pinpoint on what he was saying.
Wow.
Or what he was seeing, but he saw lots and lots of things.
It just goes back to our brains and how all of those things.
I heard this the other day, and I did not look up. I didn't fact check this.
Okay.
There has never been a blind person, a person that has been born blind that has had schizophrenia.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's true. I heard that somewhere, and I thought that was unbelievable.
Something to look into.
Because what does that mean? What does that mean? That, like, vision is, obviously how much does vision affect, like, your brain?
Yes.
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many things that I think humans are so resistant. A lot of times someone is going through something and obviously it happens and you're like, how am I getting through this? Amy Purdy, I've mentioned her a lot before. She was 19 years old when she contracted a viral meningitis. Mm-hmm. And she had a weird experience right before that where someone had asked her if she had crossed over. She was a massage therapist and she was a snowboarder. And when they were wheeling her into the emergency room or into surgery, the doctor kept saying to her, Amy, just keep remembering what you love about life and why you love life. She had I think less than 5 or 2% chance of living. She was like black and blue from the meningitis. A boy down the street had just recently had it and lost his legs. And she had this moment where she's like, I don't know what I'd do without my legs. And then here she's in this situation. And she did lose both of her legs. I believe she has the knee joint still. And she went on to create these bindings so she could snowboard and went on to the Paralympics and has a bronze and a silver medal.
Unbelievable.
But in her surgery, she did see her body. Mm-hmm. And she said she just remembered it was sort of like a light in the distance, and there were figures, and she heard them speak to her, and they said, you can come with us. If you choose to, you can come with us, or you can stay. The road ahead will be very hard, but it will be worth it in the end. Wow. And she said, I just remembered what the doctor had said to me, and and she remembered the smell of like fresh cut grass and all these things in her family and dancing with her father in the living room and all these things she loved. And she couldn't imagine being without. And she said, she just like yelled, no.
Yeah.
And everything went black. And it was silent and it went black. And then she eventually like came out of her coma and went on to, she was on Dancing with the Stars. She has like prosthetics.
I can't even run a mile.
So
just saying.
Hey, listen. My knees they'd probably just be like, I'm done with you at this point if I tried running even like 100 yards down the road and I was a runner.
I have to try really hard not to like fall like every day, just on ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have the patients that I go see. They're like, honey, please be careful.
Oh.
Like they're worried about me.
So you're clumsy or you just...
It's hard to say.
You're not sure. Okay. That's fair. That's all right.
It's always something.
Yes, that's okay though. But it is just interesting, and it's interesting to me how resilient we are and our bodies are and all of these things.
Absolutely.
So, you deal with families a lot. How can families better support their loved ones? Not just medically, but emotionally.
I think, having those those hard conversations sooner than you think. My parents love me for that. I've made them, these are my dad's words, I've made them, look into their funeral plans. They're not even 65 yet, but, it's one of those things where it's just having those conversations of, hey, things might be going okay right now, or this might be a new diagnosis, but what happens if, we can still be hopeful, but what happens if things start turning? What would you like to do? How do you imagine spending out the remainder of your time? What is valuable to you? Is fighting whatever disease process, is that the value? Or is it quality time with family? Is it taking that trip out west to go see something you've never seen? What do you value? What do you want out of the remainder of your time, and trying to honor that if it's possible?
Yeah. That's so important. And do you often come across situations where you have to discuss like DNRs at all ever?
Yeah. So that's, to be on hospice, you don't necessarily need to have a do not resuscitate order, but we are constantly having that conversation if someone doesn't want that. Most people, I would say the majority of the people that are coming onto hospice do have that because they really specifically don't want to go back to the hospital. They want to be at home.
They don't want to be on ventilators. Like if it was a situation like that, I wouldn't want to be. No.
And if if our staff came in and found them to be any sort of unresponsive, we would have to initiate, CPR, call 911, causes the whole thing. So.
Yes. And that's a real thing. I watch too many medical shows. So.
And the medical shows, how they portray what CPR is not what would happen to a 99-year-old person who is already not doing well.
Yes. It's very different.
Yeah.
We're obviously dealing with grief a lot, and you've shared some things with me, but in real life, it's not tidy. It's not a tidy version that people expect. They're like, oh, I'm sad, and then I'm this, and then I'm this. It doesn't go that way. And how many steps, do you know the steps of grief? There's how many?
5.
There's 5.
Well, I guess 5. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is the person who kind of coined those. So it's denial, usually anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. There's some authors that, say that you have to go through those 5 steps kind of in order to deal with grief. There's other people that say it kind of like is almost like a fan where sometimes it's fully hitting you in the face. You feel the full weight of grief all the time. And sometimes it's kind of like blowing off in the corner and you kind of know it's there. You feel the wind, the breeze, but it's not as strong. And I think that's more of how I view it with losses in my life.
Yeah.
Like there's moments that today's actually the anniversary of, it's my aunt's birthday who had passed away from pancreatic cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I thought about that. And, she died on hospice and she was in her 50s.
Wow. Oh,
and
my goodness.
And she fought really hard, but it didn't work out. But she, 5 years with pancreatic cancer.
That's quite a while to live with that, isn't it? Because that's
pretty amazing.
That's an aggressive cancer.
Yeah, and she fought really hard.
Wow.
But I think about things like that where for me on a day-to-day basis, I don't necessarily think about it all the time. But then like on days like today, or if we have a patient in a similar situation, those thoughts kind of pop into my head where then I kind of have to take a minute and remind myself, okay, this isn't about me, I'm still allowed to like feel something or remember, my person in my life that might have had a similar experience, but in the moment I'm there for the patient and their family.
Yeah, you really dropped some knowledge there. I just looked her up. And denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
I was right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Girl, you just that's where you would get this. See, that's where you would get the applause. That's why you're here.
I'm very proud of myself.
You should be proud of yourself, of course. I mean, please stop it. A moment that's really stuck with you from your work, something that changed the way that you look at your life or even relationships. I'm sure you've had quite a few.
I feel like it's such a hard, it's a hard one. I think knowing my role. So like there are some moments where working with families, and this has been across the board at any job I've ever been at, it's knowing how I can be helpful to the person and their family. Sometimes me being physically present is worth it. It is helpful. Sometimes that means me standing in someone's living room for 2.5 hours when I've been trying to inch my way out the door, but knowing that is what that person needs in the moment. Sometimes it's just calling this person every day because they won't let me come because that would be too hard to see me and like actually talk about it. But if I call them every day, then I can check in on them and make sure they're okay. Other moments from my career that were really challenging were with people with very significant mental health crises, that just like that ongoing struggle every day. It was really hard because it didn't really matter what I did. I wasn't going to fix the problem. So just like kind of knowing my role in that situation of being a support to them, still letting them have their autonomy and their freedom of choice. I had somebody that did not like taking medication. And in a weird way, I became an advocate for her to not take her medication because she had the right to choose.
But that's your job also. You are their advocate.
Mm-hmm.
I had a thought as you were talking, the things that you were saying, I thought, oh, wow, you're really in this position of having to completely set aside, any experiences that you've had personally, right, with loss and grief, and also set aside what you think is right. And you're so good at that, and that's so important in your role. But how hard that must be when you create these relationships with people. Do you ever, and maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but you've got to have some sort of, you're driving all over the place. How many miles? We've talked about this too, and this is going off script, but some days you're in your car and you're like, I got to eat something. I got to stop. I have to use the bathroom. I've got to do this. I got to do that. You're all over the place. So
I'm very good at packing snacks.
Okay.
I've learned how to eat a lot of food while I'm driving, which is not always the best, but it sometimes is what you gotta do.
You're not the only person that does that, so yes.
I know where most of the sheets and geckos are in Western Pennsylvania, where I can stop and use the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Those moments in my car is kind of like a minute for me to take a break. I think we talked about this the one day. I was just like kind of like taking the mask off. Because like when I'm in those situations with those families dealing with these hard things, it's like, yes, obviously Ashlynn, the person, is in that moment speaking and saying these things, but it's like, it's Ashlynn, the social worker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like when I get into my car, I can kind of like demask and just listen to some music or eat some food, shove some chocolate in my face.
Yeah.
Chug some caffeine or, whatever I have to do, to just have a minute. And just, I'm very fortunate to like have a job that I enjoy. Like I know it sounds so weird, but I love hospice. I think if I was completely burnt out and I didn't enjoy it, I can't imagine doing it.
I truly think you found your calling.
I think I did. I think I did too. And I think, part of me, I got my, I'm a licensed clinical social worker now. So I finished that up.
3,000 supervised hours.
Took a long time.
3,000. Sorry.
That was long.
That's a lot. Yeah. I remember you talking about that. I actually put it in my phone the day that you were taking your test.
Yeah.
And then the next day I was like, I didn't text her. I was like, I had an alert and everything to be like, hey, killing it today.
Yeah, it was.
But that was a tough time for you.
Yeah. But with that, I hope what my goal is to eventually to become a certified grief counselor and to then still do hospice, but then maybe be able to support people in the community because it is something that's not readily available. Grief support, it's not usually a billable thing that insurances will cover. People have different ways that they grieve, and sometimes they grieve for a lot longer than the normal amount of time. So then, who's helping those people? Just trying to find a way that I can educate myself a little bit more so that maybe I can give back in a way that is supporting people that are still struggling. Because, I think we all grieve lots of things.
Yes. I'm glad that you said that because I recently have come to the realization personally, and I don't know necessarily where it's coming from if I've come back to it. We're talking about the steps of grief and, she says it should be in this order. It's almost like, oh, you go to preschool, you go to kindergarten, you go to elementary, you go to college, you meet someone, you get married, you have kids. Like that hasn't been my life. That's not your life. There are some people that does happen for them, right? That's great if that's what they want for their life. But for me, I realized recently that I've had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And I've started to, I talk to my therapist about it a lot. And I'm trying to work it out where is this something that am I still angry about what happened after my dad died and the age that I was at.
Yeah.
And the support that I didn't have. And that's not to blame anyone. That's not to blame my mother. That's not to blame my grandmother. That's not to blame anyone else in my family, because everyone was grieving. I also think it's a very different time. It wasn't a time kids weren't going to therapy in 1995.
No.
I was in 9th grade. That wasn't a thing. So I'm looking back, and because the way that I have, been in my relationships through my adult life. So it's interesting to me how I'm like, wow, I think I've gone back to that. Or maybe I never went through the anger phase and I'm going through it now.
And honestly, like, I think that, again, like that's the 5 stages of grief. Like, I think she was the first one that like wrote it down. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's something that we've all kind of done for like the history of time. So I think that it looks different for every person. And I think that you are at what you're describing to me is that you're actually at a more stable point of your life where you're able to go back and process some of those feelings that you as a young person were not able to understand. And now you're an adult and you can think about it in a different light. And I think it's just kind of that. And I think that's absolutely normal. Okay, and good. I think, a lot of people, especially when younger people, like children and teenagers, even they say babies can experience grief.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they know that something is different. And they don't have the language to identify that, but they can understand something is different. They can pick up on emotional cues from other people. So even infants and babies can grieve. And so it's just, I think just giving yourself like that grace to know it's okay to go through that again and looking at it with your adult lens. That's absolutely a normal and healthy thing.
Yes, I'm fully immersed in that currently.
Yeah.
So thank you. We can talk about that outside of here. And you said this a little bit, like personally, when you're holding space for other people's grief and not carrying it home with you. And you said, and you've said this before, and you said this when we talked before about taking off what are you taking off?
I say the mask.
The mask, thank you.
The social worker mask, I suppose.
It seems to me like you have a really good way of doing that, especially those moments in your car. How easy has that been, or how hard has that been to do?
I think I've gotten better with it as time has gone on. In a weird way, with my current job of hospice, I don't typically have the opportunity to build like the longer relationships that I did at my last job. So I am a journaler. I've kept a journal since I was a child. And I have found myself now at my current job, I don't write about work as often as I used to. And I think for me, that's a way of like, not that I don't need to remember it, but I'm choosing to let it go. I'm also very blessed to have other friends in the social work field that I can call on my drives home some days and just kind of decompress. And I've had a lot of good mentors in the field that if I am struggling with something ethically or, just something isn't sitting right with me, that they're always open to, kind of talking that through with me. Cause I am the only social worker at my current job. So, it's a little bit lonely in the field of, nurses and things like that. I do have other coworkers that I can always talk with too. So I'm lucky in that regard that I have other people that are dealing with very similar circumstances that I can kind of bounce it off, because that is one of the big things for me. It's like, I don't want to take that home to my house all the time. And every once in a while it does come up where, I will share that, something has been difficult, like with my husband or something like that. But, I try not to do that because I don't know that that's fair to do that. And obviously I can't talk openly about like patient stuff with everybody. So it's just, I try to get it out before I get home. And then I think by me not including it in like the way that I remember things has been better for me.
Yeah.
And then I just have been trying to, like, when I'm home for the night, I'm home. you know, and I'm just trying to like fill that time with things that I enjoy, and try to like fill my cup up a little bit before I go back. And then I am also one that is not shy about asking for, if I need a day, like if I need a day, or if I just need to be at the office, like if I need to keep a light schedule and just be like, I can't, you know, I just need a minute.
Having that support though is so important that you have that.
Yeah.
When you said that about not wanting to bring it home and not wanting to always talk to your husband about who, I know your husband, obviously.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
He's like, am I getting a shout out? Oh, there you go. That's your shout out. But the really remarkable thing when you said that, I had this feeling that you already know you're in it. You're in the arena and you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if you're so aware of what that feels like. You don't want other people to feel that.
Absolutely.
It's almost like that's what you're doing. In a
yeah.
way.
I mean, I think that's actually true. Like I actually had that moment. I think it was last year. I don't remember. It was warm, which could have been any other time other than right now.
Right. Warm? What?
It was warm outside.
We're all like, snow, yay. Now we're like, no more snow.
We were sitting outside on the porch and something had happened. And I was talking about the situation, and it was like a rather like graphic story of like whatever was physically happening to this person. And then I like, as soon as I was done, I was like, oh, like you have no idea what I'm talking about. And so I kind of like apologized almost, and was like, I felt like that was like a lot, and like kind of checked in with him about it because I felt bad because I'm so used to it. And so
yes.
I do get that layer of like almost like being desensitized to it in a way.
Yes.
And that's why I think I've shifted to using the support from my coworkers a lot more because it is different.
Yeah.
And there's losses at work that they do affect me, but it's just we have a different understanding of it because we are in it every day. And most people, like we said, most people aren't in it.
Yeah.
Or most people have had other experiences with death and dying that aren't pleasant or easy for them to talk about. So I just after that, I was I've been trying to be a lot more mindful about it. And I think for the most part, I'm succeeding with that.
It can't be an easy thing to do. When you first told me what you do, I was like, wow. I was like, you're so young, and but you're so wise and mature for your age. And it's just, I don't know. It's just
I'm
really,
actually 84 years old.
I'm an old lady in a young woman's body. Sorry. You know me. I'm going to start doing some voice. I had another thought too that just slipped out of my brain because that's what happens when you're in your 40s. Something to look forward to.
I have so much to look forward to.
It's really awesome. I mean, if we're talking about things, perimenopause is...
I know. I can't wait.
Someone posted, and all these women are just, oh my gosh, I feel... And I was like, I feel like I've met my people. And obviously my friends that are my age, but it's just really... You will have a thought. And you're saying all these things and you're giving me these nuggets. And I'm like, wow, this is really it's fascinating to me that you're just all in, and I'm so excited for your career, your trajectory.
Thank you.
Because you are on this path and you're doing something that is really special.
Thank you.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but it's a really special thing that you do. That's not, I got it. You watch these, we were talking about doctor shows.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to give someone bad news and they can't start crying in front of them. Is there some sort of code of conduct for social workers when you're working in this field that when you are sitting there with someone and maybe they're family members and they're actively dying, have you ever had the emotions start to, and do you need to leave the room or what's?
I have never sobbed in front of a family yet. It's always tomorrow. We have a strict rule at work. We're only allowed to cry on Wednesdays. We adhere to that pretty strictly. I've teared up.
And it's Wednesday,
It is
ironically.
Wednesday.
So
I have not cried yet today. I have like teared up with people. I've had to like take several minutes after like a really hard phone call or a minute, like if I leave a visit and kind of need a minute. I mean, there's definitely moments where it's hard.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, it's like I do that and then it's like, okay, gotta go see the next person.
Yeah, you have to immediately go to the next.
Yeah.
Has this work changed the way that you think about your own mortality and even the people that you love? Or do you have to really just...
For me, it's not so much for me. It's a lot of the people in my life. My dad is one of my best friends. And
yes.
I'm obsessed with my dad. And he thinks I make all sorts of money off of him on the internet by posting pictures of him in the garden.
You do. You have these amazing posts, and I'm
I don't make any money. He doesn't believe me, but I don't make any money.
Hey, you could. We could change that.
We could try. But I look at that, and then my mother is still the caregiver for her mother. My mom has been essentially taking care of my grandma for over 20 some years because of everything that happened with my grandfather getting sick and passing. And my grandmother has macular degeneration, so she can't drive. She's also going to be 92. And so my mom is, she's the one that's local here. So watching her struggle with a lot of the things that I'm also helping patients and their families with, that's an interesting thing. So it gives me like kind of a weird insight to it. So like it's hard to kind of watch them go through that and know my role as I'm not, in those moments, I'm not the social worker. I'm the daughter. I'm the granddaughter. Mm-hmm. I will pull the social work card on my grandma if she is misbehaving, but
you're like, actually, I know what's best.
Oh, she definitely doesn't listen to me. So
yeah, I'm sure. And that kind of goes along with what we were chatting about before we started, is that, when someone gets to a certain age, if they're really, determined that this is what they want to do, at some point you have to be like, hey, I mean, they're in their 90s. I think I'm going to have to let them stay there and not come, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And a couple things we've talked about, and I'm going to merge these together. You work with people who are facing chronic illness. You said mental illness, mental health challenges, even poverty. The biggest gaps in support for older adults. And if you could change one thing about how we care for aging adults in this country, what would it be?
I see a lot of, shifts to access services online, which is like hard. We still have, that generational gap where there are some people that don't have access to the internet, or they don't have a smartphone, or they're not, internet literate, or maybe they're not like actually literate. Like that is a real thing. I think, people take that for granted. Like a lot of the folks that I see, we have some people that are very from rural communities. They never finished high school. They might only have like a 9th or 10th grade education. So then give them a smartphone, try to get them to apply for something on the internet. It's never going to happen. So that's a gap. I think there's another gap with older adults finding people to do small tasks for them. So
yes.
If there's any local handymen out there that love to help older people.
Mowing the grass,
shoveling the sidewalk.
Shoveling the sidewalk, taking care of, even taking their garbage out right for them.
Simple things.
Simple things.
You can't pay anybody to do those things. So it's just like relying on like the goodness of neighbors that doesn't always exist anymore. So those kinds of services, helping older people declutter a home to make it maybe like a little bit safer for them, especially if we get into like the purview of like hoarding.
Yes.
There is no resources for things like that.
Wow.
So that's really, those are hard things to find because there's not any funding for them. And it's, if they don't have the funds themselves, they don't have family that has the money or is willing to help and do the work. I have been in situations as a social worker where I am the one helping declutter a home, and that is never ideal because that is like a boundary crossing thing. And then it's also,
I imagine
I can't do that for everybody. So that,
and that would be an emotional thing, right, to deal with. That has to be highly emotional if you're helping someone declutter their home.
Yeah.
And especially, again, we've talked about the people the patients that you have, if you have someone that's dealing with a mental illness, right? And they're actively dying, and you go into their home and they want your help one day, but then maybe the day that you come, they don't, because they've thought about it, or they've gotten sad about the thought of these things. And while we all know, obviously, I can't take these things with them, it's still holding on to those memories. So things have memories.
Absolutely.
That's tough.
And it's not up for me. It's not my job to tell somebody what they can do with their stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We talked about you passing your LCSW exam, 3,000 supervised hours. And you did speak about how that was tough, but what is that? That's a huge milestone. What's that mean to you?
Hopefully no more tests. Unless I want to.
I would say
my
like
PhD.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
How long would it take you to do a PhD in this field?
Probably like 5 years.
Yeah.
And lots of money.
I was going to say, that's got to be okay. Well,
yeah, I'm not.
Listen up, Jason.
I'm good.
No,
I'm so good.
She's like, I'm good.
I'm so good.
Okay. So as someone who's out there considering social work, especially in gerontology or end of life care, what would your advice be to them?
Spend time with older adults. Go volunteer at a nursing home. If you have not talked to an older person or held their hand or sat with somebody with dementia, I don't know that that's the field for you. Give space to, that population. Because if you don't know it, you can't work with it. So I definitely, I think that when people think of social work, for whatever reason, they often think of children, but there is a whole array of services for adults in many parts of their lives. And I always encourage people to look into social work. I'm always more than happy to answer questions about the field. There's so much that we can do. There's so much advocacy that social workers should be doing. It's great.
What do you do to fill up your cup when you're off the clock?
Well,
I mean, I know, but the people listening don't know.
I have 2 pretty cute cats.
She sure does. One looks just like my kitty.
I know. They're like twins.
They are twins.
So I have the cats. They keep me pretty busy.
As they do, yes.
I have some nephews that I love. I have Dave is my dad. I call him Dave by his first name. I got Dave's garden I tend to, and we'll be starting our seeds here soon to plan for the summer. That keeps me pretty busy in the warmer months. And then usually if Jason's not working or cooking for other people, we are trying to find good food ourselves.
Yes. Foodies. All about the food. And you also write poetry.
I do. And
you said that obviously you've journaled ever since you were a young girl. I almost said a young lass. Well, there, I did just say it.
I think my first journal literally was like a Tweety Bird journal.
Oh, yes.
I specifically remember because it had a little lock on it, and I thought it was so cool.
Those ones with the locks, I'm telling you, we were like, this is legit.
I might still have it. I don't know.
You should still have that.
I might not have that one, but I definitely have other ones from at least high school, which are, if I ever want to feel alive again.
Yeah.
Just reread
nostalgic.
that.
I have some. I wasn't good at doing it consistently, but I have had some where I've found them and I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
It's actually probably a problem.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think that's a really good thing. People now are buying journals for like $50 just to keep them on track to journal. And you're like, that's child's play. I've been doing that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Did you know that, are you a Golden Girls fan?
I've seen the Golden Girls.
Seen the Golden Girls. There's an episode where Rose Nyland is the one from St. Olaf, and she always has these really just stupid stories. She tells stories, and it's like Dorothy and Blanche are like, is she serious? And at one point, she had a journal, and they found it, and they were determined to like break it open and read it. And they read it, and it says all these things like about these 2 heifers, and they think she's talking about them, and here she's like, that's my 4-H journal from when I was raising pigs.
Oh my god.
And there's a whole episode about how they're mad at her because they think she's writing in this journal about them.
That's amazing.
And it was hilarious because Blanche breaks it open with a butter knife. I just remembered when you said locket.
Yeah.
And then you were talking and I was like, oh yeah. What do you wish more people understood about aging and dying and grief before they're forced to learn it the hard way?
I think for grief, something I always try to tell people is actually like almost the opposite. It's don't put expectations on yourself because you might experience it very differently throughout your life. It is something that we will all experience, even just like the loss of a friendship or a pet or a job or something like that. Those are all ways, that we experience loss. Mm-hmm. I think becoming familiar with what you would want for yourself. I know that that's a hard ask sometimes to think about like worst case scenarios. That's just where my head goes because
I've thought about that.
I mean, I have had many experiences of people in their way upper 90s who have never even considered what funeral home they would want. And it's just, just things like that. Like, what would you want? Mm-hmm. And it's okay to just, you don't have to, make everything, on paper, whatever, but just, if there are people in your life, have those conversations. If you have older relatives that you're involved with, have those conversations because I guarantee you they're thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So even though you might be a younger person, it's okay to talk about it. Mm-hmm. It's okay to talk about what you're afraid of, but it's also okay to talk about what you would want. Where would you want to be? Where would you want to be at home? Are there things you would want to do before you pass? I mean, we are all familiar with the term bucket list, but it's okay. Life is short. It's okay to try to, squeeze in some of those things that you want or, spend time doing things that you want with the people that you love.
Yes. Hear, hear. I've thought about it because my father was 47 when he died.
Yeah.
And I'm 45. I'll be 46 in May.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I never had a fear of that age. My brothers went through it. A lot of the men on the Crago side didn't make it to 50. They all died from heart disease. My brother Scott had a heart attack and had 4 stents put in. He's now, I have to think about this, 52. He'll be 53 this year. So he's had to really change he's had to change his diet, a lot of things he's had to change. And I just, in the last 8 months, I started having this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, and having my own sort of health things happening, right? So immediately my brain was like, okay, is this something serious that's starting? Or is this the lovely thing I talked about before of the perimenopause that's just really just tormenting me? So it's interesting how but it's true. I've been very vocal about what I want. Yeah. I don't want to be buried.
No.
I do not want to be buried. I either want to be cremated or I want to be put in one of those pods and be a tree.
You can do all sorts of things. You can become jewelry.
Yes. I don't spend money on a casket. I don't want people looking at my dead body. I understand for some people they might need that closure. I think my mother would probably be the number one person that would need that. And I'm hoping that
yeah.
Obviously, right? So I'm hoping that's never an issue. However, it is. It's important to be know what you want when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question. If listeners take one thing away from this conversation, what do you hope it is?
Life is hard. Be kind to yourselves. Do things that you like. Spend time with people that make you happy. Spend time doing things that make you happy. That's it.
That's it. And eat good food.
Eat good food. Always eat good food and tip your servers and bartenders. Please.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that.
Even on takeout.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they did work for that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. There's something really powerful about the idea of tending to people, to purpose, to grief, and to growth. Ashlynn's work reminds us that even in life's hardest seasons, dignity matters, presence matters, and stepping outside, literally and figuratively, can be part of how we sustain ourselves. I'm grateful for this conversation with my friend, and I'm grateful you were here for it. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Ego. Join me every Wednesday for a new episode, and be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Ego Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.